What a beautiful morning it is here in Salford and in Manchester. My name is Francine Morris and I'm the Associate Dean for Enterprise here at Salford Business School, one of the fantastic schools at the University of Salford, where we're lucky enough to house Launch, our fabulous business incubator. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to open the Launch Showcase Week on behalf of the university and to welcome our attendees and people who are watching later, who are students, both current and hopefully future students from Salford, across the GM region, across the UK and globally, including a wonderful cohort of students from Oman in the Middle East. And we have members of the general public as well. We also have our talented and incredibly supportive alumni, local entrepreneurs and businesses. In particular, I'd like to thank today our partners and sponsors at Santander Universities UK, who have and continue to be such brilliant supporters of Launch at Salford Business School. And in fact, it's Santander Universities UK who are responsible for making many of our student entrepreneurs' dreams come true by providing the seed funding to start making business ideas become a reality. So thank you very much to them. As well as our single university strategy of industry collaboration, the University of Salford is 100% committed to nurturing innovation and industry, particularly in the areas of digital, health and smart living. And we realise to do that, we need to put the right tools in place for our students. So from the minute they arrive in Salford, we aim to embed an entrepreneurial mindset in each and every student. But this isn't just to encourage students to start up new businesses, even though we delight in each and every new startup. Not everybody wants to start their own business. We strongly believe that entrepreneurship is a key employability skill, one that is desirable in the local and global labour market. An example of how entrepreneurship skills can help with employability is the way we nurture storytelling skills, articulation skills and negotiation skills. All these entrepreneurship skills are incredibly important skills to help our graduates compete in what is a highly competitive world of work. So one of the ways that we're doing this is through our fantastic 5-week Festival of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. We hope the festival continues to be an excellent tool for entrepreneurship learning, and we are delighted to have you here with us to start this week, which is our showcase week. The really exciting news is that we have £20,000 in cash prizes up for grabs this week. So our week this week is dedicated to the how-to. How do we set up our own businesses and listening to people that we can learn from. And there are lots and lots of exciting events for you lined up. So in order to tell you about those events and what we've got planned, I have the pleasure now of handing you over to Justina Turner, our wonderful launch manager, who'll talk about the business and innovation support for students at the Launch Business Incubator, and will also outline the upcoming sessions in the festival. Thank you very much for attending, or for those who are watching later, welcome and enjoy your week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francine. Really, really excited to be here and share a little bit more about the festival and launch with everybody. So hi, my name is Justina Turner, and as Francine mentioned, I manage the Launch Business Incubator. I've been working at the university for nearly the last 10 years, supporting students' employability and entrepreneurship skills. So I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about what Launch is and what we have coming up in the festival. And then later on, we will speak to our special guests, which is our Launch alumni. So just to give you a little bit of background, if you're interested in Launch, we have opened Launch in 2018. So we've had both the Salford City and Manchester City mayors helping us open Launch, and we are dedicated to supporting students with entrepreneurship and employability skills, giving them a chance to really start their own business, explore their business ideas, and create their own career paths in Launch. So what is Launch? Well, we are a space on campus where students can come and work on their ideas, they can learn, they can collaborate with each other, and hold business meetings if they'd like, and really interact with the business community there. But it's not just a space. Launch really is all about the skills and the support for our entrepreneurs. So each one of our businesses, when they come to see us, they get access to a 6-month support program full of workshops, um, full of opportunities to speak with experts at the Salford Business School for questions around um, things like finance, things like marketing, or digital queries, and also legal queries. We really work with students to get them from that initial idea to a startup stage, and they have workshops on things like pitching, on ideas generation, on really business models, and all the things that they need to do to run a business successfully. On top of that, we actually have a cash grant for each participant, and they have a chance to pitch for up to £3,000, which is really exciting, and it gives them that opportunity to have that early seed funding to get themselves off the ground. Okay, so what we have done so far since 2018, we've actually had 6 cohorts of our launch businesses, which means we supported over 141 businesses to start over the last 2.5 years. This is really exciting. We've also been really privileged to give away £220,000 in grant funding, and sponsored partially by the university and also by our sponsors, Santander Universities. So what I wanted to do today is share with you a little bit more about what we'll be doing over the festival. And the reason why we have a festival is because we are so excited and so privileged to work with students to help them set up a business. But unfortunately, we have very limited spaces on launch. So we've decided to open up our doors this year and invite students, local community, alumni, also possibly future students and our partners in Oman, to really come and engage with us and see what launch is all about. So you can find out some more details and the full program of events on the links here. And if I could just get Jess to pop that in the chat so you can have that for later. But we've had 45 sessions with over 20 speakers planned over 5 weeks. So it has been very exciting. We are currently on week 3. So thank you for joining us. And if you have missed anything, you actually will be able to still engage with that later on. If you get in touch with us, we've got some recordings. We have our own YouTube channel and our social media, so you can join us on those, and I'll share those later. So our first week, we were really focusing on showcasing local and social enterprise. We had a startup school for social enterprises. We were showcasing the work our students have been doing with Salford Foundation. So some really, really exciting speakers, such as John Roberts, CEO of AO World, talking all about his business journey, setting up AO. And also talking about his work in the community. So if you've missed that, let us know. Last week, we were focusing on all about the innovations and all the innovative ideas and programs at the universities. Had some really brilliant speakers showcasing our facilities, such as our makerspace, such as our Energy House and Energy House 2, and really had some really interesting speakers, such as Simon Benson from Host, who was actually one of the founding members of PlayStation VR. So really, really exciting, looking at innovations of the past and also of the future. So in week 3, as Francine mentioned, we are really focusing on the how-to. We're showcasing what launch is. We have put on some sessions on mistakes to avoid, on operations planning, on things that you might need to do to take your business idea forward, to really kind of help you get started. And we're showcasing all the launch successes that our students have had as part of launch. Okay. So this is really exciting. This week we also have our showcase competition. Just like Francine mentioned, we are giving away £20,000 of funding to anybody from cohorts 1 to 6. So we have a prize for our launch showcase pitch, and we actually have a newcomers pitch as well. So we've had over 30 applicants apply for all of our funding, and they will be pitching tomorrow. So if you'd like to join us, again, keep an eye on our social media, sign up on the links. We've got some of our best speakers, best businesses presenting tomorrow between 11 and 4 in 2 categories. Okay, so next week we will have a session all week on creative entrepreneurship. So we've got speakers talking all about how to price themselves, how craft freelancers can work and price themselves, how to get to work, how to set up a pop-up shop if you make things and you want to sell them. We also have sessions on communication and pitching and telling the story as a creative business. And concluding our festival, we have Launch Global. So we're so excited to be opening up a Launch Global program for all of our international students with this full week of activities aimed at trading internationally. So we have some fantastic speakers and some really great sessions there for you. And we will be launching a brand new competition called International Business Ideas. So this is really, really great. Some great opportunities for all of our students. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Launch Global program will run between 14th of June. So it'll start on our week 5 and it will run all throughout July. There'll be business advice appointments for everybody. We have a competition. We've got some really, really great speakers lined up as well and keynotes too. Okay, so all throughout the festival, we have 4 business competitions running. We're giving away over £40,000 in funds to students and alumni. So this is really, really exciting. If you are a creative student, you can still apply to our Launch Creatives competition, and we can share a link to that later. If you are international students, you can apply to our Launch Global Ideas that will be launched in a couple more weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, well, thank you so much. So this is really exciting to share with you what Launch is about and all the exciting things at the festival. And now I will move on to our showcase panel. So I'm really, really delighted to be joined by some really great businesses from our Launch cohorts. And I'll let them introduce themselves. So first up, we have got Dave Willsborough. Dave, if you just want to say a quick hello and tell us all about what your business is and a little bit about your journey. Thank
Sure.
you.
Hi, so my name's Dave. I am one of the directors and co-founders of Numtier Media. Numtier Media is a specialist in pre-recorded announcements and background music for commercial airlines. So that takes into account any of the overhead messages that you hear through the PA speakers when you're boarding your flight or during the flight and deboarding as well, covering your safety announcements and any kind of commercial advertisements or announcements that the airlines may wish to provide you with, such as duty free or messages on safety messages, so safety announcements such as seatbelt sign fastening, and even the kind of scary ones like the emergency announcements, which hopefully no one ever has to hear. And then there's also the background music which you hear when you come off and on the plane. And now it sounds quite a niche area, and in a sense it is, but there is so much ground to cover. So many airlines globally and so many different technical systems that there's such a wide variety of work out there. It actually kind of opens up from being very niche when you first kind of look at it to being this kind of huge, expansive industry, which is also not kind of greatly tapped into. A lot of companies provide content for this, but it's not necessarily their main focus. So we, as a business, have made it our core focus, and it really allows us to kind of innovate within that space and kind of focus on providing a product that maybe the companies don't really have the kind of the means or the desire to do necessarily. So that's our business. I came from Salford studying the Masters of Science in Audio Production, and following that went into work in various avenues of audio industry, and before settling in a company doing similar work to this, but again, one of the more expansive companies. And then at some point last year, they decided that they didn't want to focus on this small area and kind of wanted to offload it. And my colleague and I pitched to take this part of the business from them and kind of branch out on our own. And we set up Numtier Media then, and we've been trading since the end of September. And we've really managed to kind of grow our own client base from clients we were already working with in the past and our previous employers into kind of developing our own client base through referrals from manufacturers and various other people, and reaching out as well. So it's been an incredible journey so far. There's been a lot to kind of take in, and a lot to learn in terms of the business side of things. There was a whole kind of new learning curve with finance and the legal side. We had the technical side down and the operational side down, but then coming into talking about finance and cash management and the legal process of setting up a business, that kind of was a real uphill battle for us, and launch really helped us there. We came to launch on the launch program last September, October, about the same time we just started trading. So it was really good to kind of work in lockstep with launch and hash out those kind of problems we were encountering with, like I say, the financial and the legal side and the planning. So that's us. That's non-TI Media.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Dave. So much exciting things happening, and really such a different industry. I wasn't really aware of it before we started to work together. So this is really great to see. Thanks so much for that, Dave. Okay, so up next we have got Maxine.
Hi everyone, I'm Maxine, and so a little bit about me first of all. So I'm currently studying for a master's in counselling and psychotherapy at Salford, and I'm doing that part-time. So I'm in my third year now, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll graduate in September. I also work full-time, so I do compressed hours, so I work Tuesday to Friday, and I decided I wasn't already busy enough, so I would start a business, and that's where I had the idea for Therapy Unboxed. So it was probably May last year, and I was meant to be on holiday, and like lots of people, it got cancelled. Just listening about the plane announcements, it just made me really sad that I've not been on holiday. So I was meant to be on holiday, and so I had 2 weeks off, and usually I'm always really, really busy, and I never really have time to think, but I had 2 weeks where I was sort of reflecting, not necessarily having a what am I doing with my life idea, but I was thinking, you know, where am I going? What would I like to do? What am I passionate about? Because my master's course was partway through that. And I've always been really interested in helping people. And so as part of the course, you do a placement. So I was doing this counselling placement where you counsel people for free. And what I noticed was that a lot of the clients that were coming, they would come and say they were feeling down, but they couldn't necessarily tell me what the emotion was or what was behind that feeling, just that they were feeling down. So we'd spend a few weeks in sessions with them till they got to the point where they knew what that root cause was. And so it started me thinking, how could I help people to actually get to that point faster? And also, when I was counselling people, not everybody actually enjoys that face-to-face talking. It can be quite intimidating for some people. Talk about really personal things to somebody who is a stranger can be hard. And with COVID, that actually got removed as well. So we switched from face-to-face to being telephone and online counselling only. And as obviously COVID got higher, there was an increase in mental health issues. So I had this idea, right, how could I bring therapy to people at home? And that's what Therapy Unboxed is. So I've created, or should I say creating, because I've only just launched, a series of 6 boxes, and each one will focus on an element about yourself for you to work on your self-help. So the first box is about kind of your emotions and your feelings. So with like a feelings tracker, you understand, how am I feeling today? Why am I feeling like this? And then the next box looks at your thoughts. So what's going on in your mind? Start writing that down, analysing those thoughts and understanding, what am I thinking? And then the third box moves into your beliefs, values and behaviours, because a lot of what you do is based on what your parents or your teachers have sort of brought you up. And so you think that's how things are. And then you get to this point as an adult where you realise, actually, I don't believe in that. That's not me. So that really looks at what beliefs and values you have and which ones you want to take forward. Then it gets into relationships and communication. So a lot of the reason a lot of conflict happened, it's all down to miscommunication. So this really looks at who are those key relationships in your life and how can you actually have open and honest conversations with them. And then the next box looks at how to make a change, because at this point you may have realised how you're feeling, what you're thinking, things you want to change about yourself but don't know how. So that box will then help you with a bit of change management. And then the last box is all about making your priority and self-care. So how do you find time for you to work on your mental health? And so in terms of sort of where I'm at the moment, I just launched the business in May during Mental Health Awareness Week. I've only got the first box launched at the minute, and the second box will be coming in sort of 2 or 3 weeks. And so each month I'm going to be releasing the next box in the series. And then once I've got all 6 launched, it'll become a subscription that people can sign up to. in terms of how the launch at Salford Uni helped me, it's really made me look at things that I kind of ignored before. So I'd had the idea, I'd started working on what I wanted, and there was bits that I'd sort of skipped because I didn't really want to know about it, such as sort of the financial side, because I knew I'd been buying lots of products. I didn't really want to know how much I'd spent. So I was like, I'm not going to look at that. But the course makes you sort of look at it and understand sort of what you need to sell in order to cover the costs that you've already made. And also with my website, I had really good advice on how to make it engaging, and really looked at how I was designing it so it spoke to people rather than it being what I wanted to say. It was more, what did I think people who were coming were looking for? So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks so much, Maxine. It's really great to see your journey and how you've been interacting with launch and what you've been achieving so far, and such a worthwhile, such an important product. So thank you for sharing. Okay. So up next to share with us, we've got Mark Frith. So really exciting to hear from Mark.
Hello everyone, and welcome to sunny Salford down in Bewell Hill Park. So yes, I was in cohort 4 of launch. It was a bit of a strange cohort because we started just prior to the pandemic in 2020. My journey up until that point was I'd been working freelance for about 8 months, doing therapeutic horticulture, working with private clients to set up community gardens, holistic therapy spaces that people could come and use nature-based activities to alleviate either addiction issues or minor mental health issues. And the reason I got into this line of work is, I suffer with negative mental health myself, with dyslexia, which I found out through the counselling work that I'd done. But also I'd worked for 10 years in community development, focusing around sustainable communities and looking at therapeutic horticulture and community gardens as a way of bringing communities together and building more resilient communities. So after 10 years, I decided to go freelance. I had, like I said, 9 months of that. And then I was approached by a couple of people in Salford that introduced me to one of the rangers within Salford Council, who were looking at having people managing small plots of land for the council to open it up to the community a bit more. So like I said, this was just at the beginning of the pandemic, so I decided to join the launch programme and kind of work out how I could build a network and look at the business model of creating something for the community in a kind of a high deprivation area, which Salford is, specifically where we are now in Bewell Hill Park. It's kind of an interesting mix of park users that come into this space. So fast forward 12 months, going through the pandemic, exploring different options. I'm really proud to announce we've created a CIC, a community interest company, and we have a board of 8 directors, and that company is looking at how we can offer more facilities, experiences to people that come and tend their community allotments within Bewell Hill. We work in partnership with the Friends of Bewell Hill Park to open up a pop-up cafe, and the Salford Croquet team to maintain their green space. So we've built up a really nice family of volunteers and park users, creating a space that people can come and have a conversation. Conversations are very important to people, especially now in lockdown, is that you're isolated from your wider network of friends. The only thing you can come out and do up until recently was have your exercise and walk in the park. And our cafe, which opened mid last year, became a hub of the park where people could come and have those conversations, look for help and support. We could signpost them to more organisations that offered more bespoke support than we could offer here, which was the talking therapies and allotment space in the gardens. So it's been a fantastic journey, and we're just at the start of another chapter now, looking at the funding to try and open this 7 days a week, so we can be a central hub within Bewell Hill Park that people can come and use. And I'm really, really interested in what Maxine's just been talking about, because that would jigsaw really nicely into a lot of the conversations that we have with park users. Around the bottom end of the park specifically, there's supported housing for people with varying levels of health needs. There's aged housing, there's intensive supported housing and social housing, whereas at the top end of the park, we've got quite the affluent side of Salford with people with big houses. But all those people come and have a walk around the park, and it is really interesting that what we've created here has been a centre for cross conversations between people that would never really stop and talk to each other in the park, but they all have the same interest of the environment, how we can live more sustainably, and how we can do that improving our own physical and mental health. So in a nutshell, kind of that's where we are. And it's a big thank you to Launch over COVID, because we couldn't generate a lot of money. The actual launch funding helped kick-start the project with the insurance and some tools to start with before we could start generating income from other avenues.
Fabulous. Well, thanks so much, Mark. And it's really great to hear all the things that you've been working on. And what a wonderful setting you have there, complete with some bird song to soothe us today. So wonderful. Thanks for joining us. Okay. So next up, we've got Alex and Daria.
Hi, hello. We are in the garden as well, so we are surrounded by nice sounds. Hopefully you can hear us okay. But yeah, hi, it's really nice to be here. So I'm Alex, and here you have Daria. And we basically co-founded Dar Studio. We are already in we're moving into our third year of business now, and we're actually part of the first launch cohort.
So we are veterans, like the oldest of the oldest.
So we were there kind of from the beginning. We started almost basically straight out of uni. We wanted to work freelance. So we actually do, because we did human-centered design. So I'm kind of interested I'm a multidisciplinary designer. Daria is more of a graphic designer. And we started because we had very complementary skill sets. And we thought we want to work as a duo, and that was kind of like the first thing. And then we got to launch, and basically we started learning more about entrepreneurship and being business, like the business mindset, and stuff like legal things, finances, and all the structure that as a creative person you don't necessarily like think of straight off the bat, and we find it really, really valuable. And we actually, because we were surrounded by so many people with ideas, so many people with entrepreneur mindset and stuff like that, it actually helped shape our business, because we went from being freelance, we then moved to an idea of we want to be a creative studio so that we can collaborate with more people and do more different types of work. And then later we ended up, what we do now is we kind of ended up specializing. We work with startups, young businesses and entrepreneurs, actually to get them started. So we actually really, really love that journey of helping people just like in the beginning, making sure they have I don't know, their branding done, their website done, and also with maybe little pieces of advice. So yeah, we do a lot of those sort of things, and we would not be here without Launch. So really, really grateful to have been part on that journey. But yeah, that's us.
Yes, so we are kind of like moving into our next stage now of a business where we are actually expanding. So we not only we want to kind of provide the working spaces as well. So because we grow in and we have more and more projects, we actually want be able to actually to work on even more. So we are we are collaborating with different creatives as well, and working on giving opportunities to others as well to kind of like to expand and kind of polish their knowledge in graphic design and branding.
And who knows what. Yes.
Yes.
And that's about us.
That's
Thank
really
you.
great. Thank you so much. And it's really great to still have you here with us and supporting our students. I know that you've been there from day one, and even in your cohort, you've been helping others with their logos and their websites. So really, really happy to have you with us.
Thank you,
Thank
Jessica.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, so up next, we've got Mark Roberts. So, Mark, if you want to just say a quick hello and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Justina. My name is Mark Roberts. I'm the founder of Lead Grow Pro. My background is professional football. I played 15 years as a professional footballer. I lived the childhood dream, so to speak, and been in the transition phase. The last 2 or 3 years, I'm still playing semi-professionally, although the pandemic and lockdown put an end to the last 2 football seasons. I returned to Salford Uni at the end of my professional football career because I've always been fascinated with how the lessons I've learned through sport could be applied in a different arena, in a different industry, particularly in business. And because I learned so much in terms of my competitive edge and my competitive advantage from looking outside of my sport and doing things very differently than probably most people that I played alongside or against. And learning from leaders in business was how I think lasted so long in the ultra and most competitive industry that can be in playing professional sports. So I went to Salford Uni to complete an MBA for CEOs in sports. I graduated at the back end of last year, and then I was looking at really what to do next and how I could take the ideas and thoughts that I have and put the business structure behind that. So the opportunity to join Launch came at a perfect and ideal time for me. I have been working in the last 2 or 3 years as a personal development mentor for the league football education. So I get to work with young athletes, and we have a big focus, and it was interesting what Maxine was saying. There's a big, obviously, focus in sport around well-being. Of course, we want to help people achieve high performance, but the well-being and transition and the person behind the football player is now seen as just as important. So it's great to be working with young athletes. I also work for another company called Switch the Play, where I work with other sports and beyond sport in terms of maximizing your network, transferable skills, and developing your own personal brand. So I kind of took all that learning in the last 2 or 3 years, formulated my own ideas, and started my own business. The pandemic and lockdown really, I suppose, I wouldn't say forced my hand, but it made me understand as a self-employed person just how vulnerable you are. I wasn't making decisions on whether I could play football. The government decided that, and because my season finished and other work all went online, I felt it was an ideal time for me to put my ideas into practice. So I've been trading for the last 2 or 3 months, secured my first clients with the help of Launch, and just Launch has helped me to see things from a different perspective. And as someone who always educated themselves alongside my sport to try and understand different views, different opinions, and see the world in different ways, Launch has helped me to understand how I can grow my business and also make it a sustainable one. So I'm eternally grateful for the help and support that I've been given as part of this cohort 6.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing. And I think it's just so wonderful to have colleagues here from cohorts 1 to 6 in such a variety of stages and businesses. So we'll now move on to some questions that I have prepared. But if anyone in the audience would like to ask questions, please put them in the chat. We can pick them up towards the end. Okay, so the first question really, Mark, you actually started to answer that for me. So my first question was, why did you decide to become self-employed? So do you want to just expand a little bit on that, and then we'll go to the next and just find out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, I suppose I've always tried to do things a bit differently. Partly due to family commitments and a lifestyle choice. I've loved playing professional football for so long, and probably longer than I ever anticipated when I left school at 16. But I'm also a family man, and I've got 3 young children. And when I was making my transition out of having a contract and a professional football contract, which, although it's not guaranteed, there was also certain security around that, which was great, especially when you want to go on holiday and you're in the off season and you're still getting paid. It's very different now as a self-employed person, but I just felt it was the right fit for me. When I left professional football, I was studying towards my masters. I was juggling 3 jobs, 3 kids, and yeah, I'd probably never been as busy in my life before. But it also was probably where I found and understood a bit more about what success and happiness meant to me, and I found that better life balance. And I think that's so important in the help that I offer other people. It primarily is about helping people find the right balance for them as well. So yeah, it was to try and create my own opportunities. I'm someone who tries to design my own destiny, and I want to be in control of that. Of course, there's been challenges and it's difficult, but I do think this is the right path for me to follow.
That's really great to hear. Sounds like you're extremely busy, so it's absolutely great to be able to control at least that work aspect, working freelance. So thank you for that, Mark. So up next, I've got Dar and Alex. Dar and Alex here at our studio. So why did you guys decide to become self-employed?
I've been mature student when I joined Salford University. So I've been 34, I don't remember. So yeah, I just wanted to secure my kind of like future in terms I was wondering that I might will have a problem, so difficult, finding myself a job like in that age. And I've always been very proactive. So during kind of like 3 years at the university, I found myself a placement. So I was kind of like trying myself, and I had different sort of experiences and different kind of like, yeah. So I was really thinking of having that extra security of being able to be freelance, and learn everything everything about it. So a launch was just amazing opportunity for me actually take that time and actually learn like all the scary things that I thought that because I'm highly creative. I'm a designer, so I have a creative mindset, and organization and finances and all these scary things I always been kind of putting them aside, where Launchka actually gave me this all kind of like tools and time to work around it and actually make like doing the learn how to like doing those things. And so that was my kind of idea of going freelance. And
for me, I would say that kind of bit of what Daria said, basically, because we took the launch program, it didn't feel scary. And for me, it didn't necessarily feel scary, like making that step. It made it accessible, and I realized, you know what, everyone could do this. Like, it's super easy.
Yes,
it's not that it's not. Yes, it's extra responsibility, but it's really not such a big obstacle. So it kind of pushed, and for me, it was mostly because I don't like being kind of like necessarily told what to do, like just being sat in an office and yes, okay, here's what you do and this is your hours and you need to be there at that time. I definitely like the ability to pick my own projects. For example, like we can pick who we work with. We try to actually, which sounds silly because you should, especially when you're starting out, you're like, you should accept every project. But if someone is not the right fit for you, you can just tell them. You're not forced to do things that you don't want. And yes, your failure is entirely your responsibility, but so is success. So there's a great satisfaction in that. So for me, it was a lot about that, like being able to organize my own time, pick my own projects, have my own values in my work, embedded in my work. And it wasn't as scary as it seemed once I started doing it. So yeah, that was it for me.
That's really great to hear. I'm so pleased that we could give you just some of those tools because the ability was always there with you guys. So fantastic. So up next we've got Mark. So I'd love to hear from you. And I think you also touched on that already, but if you want to expand a little bit why you decided to become self-employed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's always been in my blood. I was brought up running bars with my parents, so having a 24/7 working life pattern has kind of been drilled into me from a young age. And it doesn't really work if you work 9-to-5 organisations, because you can drive a lot of energy into the organisation, but you don't get the full recognition from the organisation for that work that you provide for them. So I think, you know, for me it was a long journey coming to be self-employed, and it is a nervous jump, because when you are working 9-to-5, you have your regular income. You know, you've got your clients coming in, you don't have to fight for your money, and that's one thing I'm bad at, is fighting for money. I'm very passionate about community and sustainability, and how people can have a good quality of life without a lot of income. I think that's an important way that, you know, communities need to develop, rather than looking at the consumerist lifestyle that we all go through. Even I've been through that in my young days, in my 20s, back in the 90s in Manchester. So you can work out my age from there. But, you know, I think life's journey does start to equip you with evaluating what's important in your life. And I think the sooner you can actually decide what is important, the sooner you can start enjoying yourself. You know, I have other reasons that my parents are quite ill, and I have quite a lot of caring commitments to help support my parents to have an inclusive lifestyle. So having the flexibility of being self-employed and doing the work that I really enjoy is more of a therapy as well for me, because I don't have to go into an office, do 9-to-5 to earn money. I can earn money doing what's really enjoyable to me, and that helps with my mental health, is that I'm happy in the work that I do in that way. And Launch was a great success for me, because it created a network of people around me at a very difficult time. Coming through COVID lockdown was no easy feat of setting up a project, and trying navigating the bureaucracy of legalities of insurance, making sure you've got your policies and procedures in place, looking at income streams as well. That was something that I'd kind of challenged myself with, is how can you make money from an organisation that inevitably is providing something that in the past councils or charities would do for free. So looking at how we can fund this venture has been an interesting one. Opening up the pay-as-you-feel cafe was really interesting, because that's generated quite a lot of money from people paying what they can afford for a drink and having a chat with us. And it varies from someone doing a litter pick to someone paying £20 for a coffee, because they see the value of the work that we do in the community here. So yeah, I think the reward factor of being self-employed, and the recognition for the energy that you put into the project is kind of respected by people that you work with as well.
Fabulous. Some really great community spirit there that you're telling us about. So really good to hear that. Fabulous. Okay, so then we also have Maxine. So why did you decide to go into self-employment?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm not at the tipping point yet, but I'm still working full time. So I've set up the side hustle, as I'm calling it. And there will be at some point where hopefully it's successful and I can actually stop working and then just put all of my efforts into my business. So I don't see that probably coming for maybe a year or 2 years, because I think it's that working out all the costs of like daily living that I need to cover, and then obviously making a profit from the business. So I think I'm probably behind a lot of the other people who've made that leap. And it does terrify me slightly, thinking like, oh, I've got to do that at some point. Because you do become comfortable with having that steady income. So yeah, so I think part of the reason I obviously started the business and want to become self-employed is similar to what people have said. It's that freedom, being able to choose what I do, the hours, but it's also like a passion. So I think a few people have talked about having that sort of mental health interest and the well-being. Like where I work at the minute, is for like a corporate company. So I don't feel like I'm making a difference in everyday life, and I actually want to help people and change people's lives. And where I am at the minute, I'm not going to do that. So that's where my passion is, and that's why I was doing the masters as well. So I want to set up, be self-employed in an area that I'm passionate about, And I'm probably not going to make the same amount of money that I'm making where I am at the minute, but I'll be a lot happier, I think.
Great. It's really good to hear different speakers talk about that, the values and what makes you happy. I think that's a really, really great message to pass on. Fabulous. And up next, we got Dave. So Dave, why did you decide to go into self-employment?
I think there was a strong degree of kind of opportunism. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, we were working for a company who supplied this as part of their wider organization, and they wanted to move away from it and no longer supply that service from their own company. And we saw that as an opportunity to do what we were doing already and then kind of push forward with some of the ideas that you have. Working in a larger company, there is a certain hierarchy and red tape that you have to navigate if you want to make changes or kind of offer different products and stuff like that. So this gave us an opportunity to take what we wanted to do, as we kind of worked for a few years and had all these ideas, take that and really build it on ourselves and kind of widen the scope for this particular area of work that we saw the complete possibility of. So yeah, there's a certain degree of kind of here's an opportunity, let's take it. And there's also that well, we kind of it's either that or we'll look for something else. So it kind of was a tipping moment of, all right, let's take it and run with it and see how we do. And it really frees you up to be a bit more flexible with our own working hours as well, and kind of how we approach our working process and what workflows we put in place. Like I say again, you are you're the top and the bottom of the chain. There's less hierarchy, which is great. It's very exciting, but it's also quite intimidating as well. The kind of book stocks with you. So it was that opportunity came along, and it was too good to miss, really.
Great. So some really, really interesting themes coming out as well, that flexibility and being able to do what you're passionate about. I think that's what all our panelists spoke about. So that's really, really interesting to hear. Thanks, Dave. We've got a question actually in our chat from Dr. Francine Morris, who's our Associate Dean for Enterprise and Salford Business School. And she's curious to know and ask the panel, so would you have been able to set up your business without launch? If anyone wants to speak up, perhaps just let us know.
Should I jump in there? I think, as I said previously, I did set up my business prior to joining Launch. So I think it was a nervous jump. I was lucky that I'd had a redundancy package to give me the free space to do that. So what Launch offered to me was the catalyst funding when I did want to look at other avenues of business. So I think, yes, I could have started a business, but I think the support of Launch has given a lot more added benefit to the understanding of the nuances of running a business and how you can take out the personality and look at the structure of the organisation and then make it more streamlined that way, rather than worrying about everything on an emotional level. It's about taking it back to academia and saying this is the structure that you can follow. So yeah, it's been a great help for me.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Mark. I think that's what we're trying to do, is remove those barriers and give you a little bit of a plan to follow. So hopefully it just makes it that little less stressful for everyone to make that leap. Okay, any other panelists who'd like to contribute?
Alexandra.
For us, I would say that without Launch, we might have been freelance and like worked as designers, but I don't think we would have ever started an LTD and actually build something where we can start thinking of maybe employing people soon.
All the understanding of actually like we wasn't quite like as working as freelance while we were like on the launch at the start. It's actually kind of opened our eyes to the opportunities and to the mindset of actually kind of like that why we understood why the limited company would be better for us as well, sort of why it will work for us. Definitely gave us that kind of like a leap to kind of like to transition into kind of a studio, a company. That
reassurance and that confidence that you can start a business, you can actually be one of those people that are doing walking the walk and everything, not just someone that's going to be someone's employee, or like someone that can make things for others. You can set your own direction. So yeah, for us, that's basically what Launch did.
I mean, all the kind of like, the industry professionals, the support from, from, for example, from Isabel, from our mentor, like it was incredible. Business advisor. Yeah, it was incredible, just like the guidance and like all the tools that we've been
and the workshops
given.
And how to do this, how to do that, how to talk about yourself, all that stuff. Yeah, definitely. Probably not without Launch, we wouldn't have been where we are today. Yeah, I'll say that again. Yeah.
Even our first client, right?
Yeah.
It's like even our like first serious client as well. So yeah, so amazing. Yeah.
Really great to hear that. It definitely warms my heart to see that you guys had that help and got your first client through Launch as well. Fabulous. Any other panelists would like to contribute to this?
Yeah, I'll go, Justina.
Great.
Yeah, I suppose I'd already done a soft launch before I began the launch program. But it's like anything, and I think even listening to the people talk today, it's just an opportunity to share ideas and see things from a different perspective, and that's exactly what I wanted to get from joining the program. It was the same when I did my MBA. I think it gives you an opportunity to step back, to think, to feel, to act, and also focus your attention. The advice is, as Dara and Alexander were touching on, that you've got access and support to, which you can feel a bit lost sometimes when you're working for yourself. But the opportunity when you've got a question that's burning in your head, right, I've got someone I can go to now, whether it's digital, financial, your business advisor, and just, I suppose, have a different sounding board, I think was really important for me. But I think I've learned more from the people when they've spoken on the sessions than actually the content itself. And I've always found that about learning. It's just putting yourself in situations where you can grow in different ways. And most of the time, it's not as you were expecting, but it's been a really rewarding experience.
That's really great to hear that you value that kind of peer network and that peer contribution. I think it's just an interesting part of learning, that actually, as you're all individually learning, it's how you all interpret that, and you can talk about that. So we're really keen, especially whilst we're back on campus, is that space that we can provide for you all to just have a chat about it. But currently, we're doing it obviously through online networking sessions. So Jess runs these once a month, so you can come and join us for those. Well, thank you very much. I've got a next question here. I wanted to ask everyone, whether you've had to overcome some obstacles when setting up in business. So perhaps I'll go to Maxine first.
Yeah, I think the main obstacles have probably come after deciding to set up. So I think one of the biggest ones, and I think I've probably mentioned this before, but because I'm doing like a subscription box that I'm going to post, I've had all the boxes custom made, and I needed to get the postal box custom made. And so I've spoke to my supplier and they told me that it was going to be a 12-week wait, because Amazon had bought all the cardboard in the world, because obviously with COVID, everyone was getting deliveries, and Amazon is a huge business, and they had just gone to everyone and bought all the cardboard in the world. So it was going to take 12 weeks for me to actually get my cardboard boxes, which then delayed my launch date, and then it delayed me getting my photography done. And so everything ended up being pushed back, and I just hadn't allocated that kind of a buffer. So originally when I'd started out, I'd intended to launch in January, because I thought new year, new you, this is a great time for people that would be looking for wanting to make changes. And so I've only actually launched come May, because of these delays and things. So I think it's that the obstacles are, you'll have a date in your head that you're working towards, and you're probably never going to make that date. So add 6 months on, and that's probably going to be your real date.
That's really great to hear. And actually, that was my next question, and that was about how has COVID affected your business? That was a really clear example of that. Thank you for that. Okay, well, I'm so pleased that you were able to launch, even though it's a little later on. Okay, so up next, perhaps Dave, have you had any obstacles when setting up or running the business that you had to overcome?
I don't know if there's any kind of defined obstacles. There seems to be that there's so many avenues and elements to attack that every area seems to have their own kind of tripping points and things you've got to look around. So it didn't seem to be that there's one kind of defined thing that kind of knocked us back or changed our path directly. We've had to kind of come across, as we've been going down certain avenues for certain, say, elements of the service that we're providing, we've had to say, okay, now we've got to actually apply for that or engage with that organization, or kind of put this expense in place so that we can kind of be part of this element. There's a one thing we didn't take into account. There's a kind of with alongside the manufacturers and content providers, there's certain ways of distributing and sending and receiving content that we had to then become a part of, and it's a very kind of closed off network with a specific delivery format and service technology that we had to then kind of buy into, and that was kind of something that we didn't anticipate initially when we were doing our initial budget and cash flow. So yeah, there's loads of little things that kind of come along here and there, and then to go to your point, how if you might ask this later, but how COVID has affected us. We set up obviously during COVID when the airline industry was already taking a massive hit, so we were kind of prepared for that slower kind of start to our business and kind of the decrease in demand. But that's just kind of a continuing obstacle that we are navigating, and that kind of affects maybe the length of time that a client may go from initially inquiring about a service and requesting work to actually completing as they reevaluate their situation, because their situation is changing week by week or even day by day. So yeah, there's lots of little kind of obstacles that we're kind of having to turn around every so often.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that. I think it's so true. When you're running your own business, you're always coming up with different problems and solutions on almost a daily basis. So that's great to hear. Okay, so up next, I've got Mark. Did you have any large obstacles when you were setting up?
Me, Justina.
There's two of us.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two Marks.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to go, Mark, or do you want me?
No, you go first, mate.
Okay. Well, I suppose I've always been someone that's whenever obstacles have been put in my way, I've always tried to see or find opportunity. And I guess when the pandemic hit, a lot of the support that I offer, which is in person, went online, and I saw people, and it just baffled me really. They were apologising when they were coming on Zoom sessions or Microsoft Teams sessions, and they were apologising for the fact that we were online. And I just thought, well, that's immediately going to bring down the energy and the people that are trying to support. So during the period of lockdown, where I think people mentally and needed that support more than ever, I found it as a great chance for me to develop my skills in different ways. And suddenly I was connecting with people and able to offer my services as far as Dubai, speaking to people in Singapore, and I could be 2 or 3 places in the same day, which logistically with travel just wasn't possible before. So it's actually, I think, benefited me as a businessman. I think we've got to a place, particularly in sport, a lot sooner than we've done with the now acceptance of technology. I'm not saying it's got to replace it completely. I still miss that interaction and meeting and speaking to people in person. But I think the online opportunities have certainly far outweighed the obstacles that other people have perhaps struggled to deal with.
Right, so it's turning those obstacles and the negatives that some people perceive as negatives and turning them into opportunities. I think that's brilliant. I think that's really what entrepreneurship is all about, and it's improving on how people perceive and creating those new opportunities. So fabulous. Thanks for sharing that, Mark Roberts. Okay, so up next, Mark Frith, would you like to share your experiences about any obstacles or perhaps the pandemic? Oh, okay. So perhaps Dar Studio, would you like to share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah,
we don't know where to start. So many obstacles we had to overcome.
It was a journey. Kind of like, yeah, like definitely, you know, kind of brings through that you kind of find obstacles all along. There were, just to think of a few things. I think pricing our services was a big one. It took a long time to figure out what is the actual, like, because we were exploring a lot, and also because we wanted to like, we are still just out of uni, and yeah, we wanted to still like maybe learn a few new skills. We ended up doing like going in directions that we didn't necessarily learn in uni, so you learned a lot as well. And we don't, it's difficult to figure out how much we need to actually charge sometimes for things. So that was pricing our services, took a while to figure out, to get good estimates of, okay, how many hours do we need to work for this to be delivered, so how does that translate into a sustainable, yeah, like
income. Yeah.
So, you know, because that was a big one.
Pricing, but services itself as well, because
Also,
we
yeah,
were doing
figuring out.
everything. And we were really like, we wanted to do it all. So we were like video production, we were doing photography, we were doing graphic design, we were doing website design, we were doing all of it. And we didn't, and actually when people were asking, we kind of couldn't figure out our like unique selling points as well, because we wanted like to cover everything. Yes. But then we kind of eventually, with like you know, hitting the corners, yeah, we kind of realized, okay, let's focus on just two things: website design and branding. So, and we just like skipped everything else. We also do other things sometimes,
but
and
we
have
work
connections.
with people that are far more comfortable with
Comfortable,
doing
yes. So we just focused on few things, and then we actually started doing so much better. Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of it was about that sort of thing, you know, like kind of how
Learning
do you deliver your services, price them, you know, like, and learning kind of like what we're doing. And when it comes to how we were impacted by COVID, for us, it actually, we did sort of like, we actually,
one early morning, we just woke up and we thought, this is a blessing for us, because we just thought, we need to do something. Yeah, we need to do something. We need to offer free websites.
Well, no, the idea was, right, so it was just a bit after they announced the lockdown, and we kind of like, everything was weird, because it sort of knocked us back from where we were, you know, in the process of finding a co-working space in town. We were thinking, you know, like meeting people most of the times, like, you know, clients in person and stuff, and suddenly lockdown and everything is closed. And at some point we just sat down and we thought, you know what, like, okay, so lots of people are going to be suffering, and lots of people, like lots of businesses, are suddenly going to need to be online. So we want to do something to help. So what we did was we put this contest out on Instagram, and we offered 3 free websites. So anyone with a business idea could send us a message, and we just kind of like pick the ones that we thought, I don't know, resonated with us, because we try to support, like, especially businesses that try to be sustainable. Yeah, try to make an impact for the good, you know, like, yeah, like lots of people mentioned mental health and balance, and
that was the most amazing
decision, because it kept us very busy by having 3 projects that we were not getting paid for, but at the same time it didn't allow us to go down. So we were very busy. We were speaking with people that were very bright and like had lots of enthusiasm and had these ideas, and it ended up almost like sparking that extra drive in us. And now we we have like 4 projects running at once in a month, and it's we basically had to bring 2 new people in that work almost part-time already to help us deliver it. So for us, COVID was good, because we decided to make the most of it and try to be helpful, and we got paid back. I don't know how it just happened.
Yeah.
That's fabulous to hear. It's that, again, that making bad situations people might perceive and creating that opportunity and pivoting a little bit with your business. So I bet you had so many business leads after that competition, so many future clients. and thank you. You also provided some of those free websites to our launch cohort. So that was really, really great to see. Fab, I think up next I've got Mark. I've got Mark's hand. Mark Frith has got his hand up.
I guess, yeah, I was in a very similar state to Daria and Alexandra there, is that, how do you cost things out? How do you manage your time and prioritize what you want to do? I'd literally kind of pitched up in a park and was at the outset going to offer team building activities, bringing people together, reducing isolation, education. Because I've got such a varied work experience and knowledge base, I could turn my hand to just about anything. Then lockdown happened and I was like, how the hell am I going to generate my income from this? And I was like, so the first thing I looked at was that the actual site need managing. So I put a sign up saying, if you want an allotment plot, come and have a chat with me. And then I was inundated. It was like, there's 35 people within a month came and signed up, and they've all got their own little allotment plots. And obviously, during COVID, no one could come out and socialise, but what was allowed to happen is you could come and tend your allotments. So it was a massive lifeline. For 2 days a week I would come, and all this is voluntary. I wasn't getting paid for the work of providing this space, but the benefit to the community, those 35 people with their families that came, just created a massive sanctuary. And it's highlighted the need for the project even more so in my eyes, in this particular area, because these people couldn't afford to pay for the services. Where I'd worked on a farm with a farmer that wanted to create something that was kind of heavily costed out, and my time was proportioned out that way. But here it was kind of putting back into the community, creating a community that I would like to live in, a welcoming, supportive, and respectful community. And those were the only guidelines that we put in place, was be respectful to nature, other people and yourself, and follow the government guidelines. A lot of people struggled with the government guidelines as well because of the journey that we've been through on this pandemic. As I don't think anyone could have envisaged us still being in lockdown after all this time, and yeah, so that has been a massive help again with COVID. If we hadn't have had COVID, my business would have gone a completely different direction, I think. But creating the community hub that we've got here, with the strong relationships with very, very hyper-local communities, has been a godsend. So I would never say that COVID has been a negative experience. I think it's made people reevaluate their lives and find out what's important in their life.
Fantastic. No, it's really, really great to hear the different stories and how all of you have really kind of excelled and not just survived, but really excelled through the pandemic and changed your businesses to suit. So that's really, really great to see. I'm just mindful of time. We're having such a great discussion. It's so good to hear from all of you. One last question then. If I've got any volunteers, and hopefully hear from all of you, what is the tip you would give to anyone that wants to start in business? Any kind of big tip to share?
I think the biggest one I would say is get your foundations right. It's not an easy task going self-employed, not knowing where your next wage is going to come from. So I think you do need to make sure you have got a bit of support, either from other people in your network or financially in the bank, so you can take the worry of finding your next pot of money to pay your bills. I think that's the golden rule, I would say, being self-employed. Treat it as a stepping stone if you've got a part-time job, just to have that support.
Great, thank you for that. So it's making sure you're planning for the future and have the funds in place. Fabulous. Any other panelists would like to share a tip for our audience?
Yeah, I'd think seek good advice. Really, there's so many aspects to running a business that you won't be familiar with, and mostly that's usually the financial aspect. I mean, a lot of people are starting businesses because they want to do what they do and they love what they do in that core product or service. But the other aspects of it, they're not unfamiliar, and there's a lot to learn. And depending on what kind of clients you're interacting with, there could be really extensive information that you really need to dig. So seek good advice, either from people within Launch or at the university business school, or even if you go to consultants and third parties, but just people who have done it themselves, who know the ins and outs and are specialists, and they'll save you so much time and kind of so many headaches and potential pitfalls. Obviously, it's good to do as much of it as you can, but it gets to a point where you know you need to know your own limits and how much time you've got, and not to kind of split yourself too thinly across all the elements of it.
Thanks so much, David. And we're so happy to be giving advice to anyone thinking of starting a business. We've got some free appointments running all throughout the festival, all through till the end of July. So if anyone wants to have a chat with us, contact us on our email. So thank you, Dave. Any other tips from our panelists? Last minute tips, Maxine? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would just build on that about seeking advice, but also I think your friends and family are always going to tell you they love what you're doing and they think it's great and it's fabulous, and they might not necessarily tell you the truth and the honest points. I think it's when you are getting feedback, do find that network of people that you don't know and are going to be brutally honest, or you might have that friend who you know will tell you the truth, because obviously they're trying to encourage you and they'll be like, yeah, it's great, but when you actually went to launch it, it might not be great for other people. So I think it is that when you are getting that advice, make sure you are getting objective advice from people.
Great. Yes, I think it's just not trying to fall into that trap of friends and family, yeah, and the support. And I think it's lovely to have their support, but it's that objective market research. I think we always share that with our cohorts. Fabulous. Okay. Any last minute tips? I think Mark had his hand up. Oh yeah, Dar Studio.
Yeah.
Great.
Sorry, yeah. So very quickly, don't be afraid to do the things that you're not, confident in doing, or like
you don't
try
like
new
to
things.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you're telling yourself, oh, I'm not structured enough, or oh, I'm not I'm not good with maths or numbers or something. Like, don't let that, like think out of the box. Be resourceful, like people have said. Like see how can you do things, and like try.
Try things.
Look out for opportunities everywhere as well, because there are a lot of opportunities, especially in Manchester.
Basically, successful people are not afraid of doing things that failures don't like to do. That's what they do. So they also don't like to do them, but they do them anyway.
Yeah.
And this is our advice. Yes, just do things that you feel uncomfortable with.
Sometimes it actually works out well. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think that really showcases how you can grow and learn new things. So thanks so much to both of you. And I think I've got one last hand up from Mark Frith, and then we'll do a bit of a wrap up.
So yeah, it's just reaffirming networking and getting to know people in the kind of similar business world is very important, because your competitors could be your best supporters as well. If you can work together on projects, it's better to have a supporter than someone that's not going to support you. And on that note, I just want to say a really, really big thank you to Jess and Justina at launch, because I think having that personal touch, that person you can contact, sometimes at the middle of night, sending a WhatsApp message saying, I need some help and don't know where to turn. I think having that personal touch from you two has been very, very supportive for me personally, but I think from a lot of people on the launch project.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's so great to hear. And I know Jess has been an incredible support to everyone, always there answering questions. So absolutely well deserved. Thank you to Jess. Fabulous. Okay, I think one last hand up then. Mark Roberts would like to share one last tip. And
just with what everyone else has said, don't be afraid to ask for help. Trust yourself. When you're following your passion will also follow you. And if you're willing to grow through the good and the bad, every no is one step closer to a yes.
Fabulous. That's really, really great to hear. Thanks so much, Mark, for that. Just a few things from me then. You can get in touch with us on our email and our social media. Just mindful, we've got a next session just coming up and at this time, actually, and that's Charles Knight and mistakes to avoid while starting a business. So if any of you need to go into that one, Jess can perhaps share a link. So thank you so much to our panelists. Really, really great to hear your stories and your insight, and so lovely to have you back to hear about the progress you've been making. All right, well, thank you so much. And if there's any questions, let us know in the chat. Jess has just sent the link to the next event. And we'll stick around for a little bit to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. Bye bye for now. Okay, I can see there isn't any questions, so we will be logging off shortly, but you can always get in touch with us at launch@salford.ac.uk. Okay, thanks so much. Bye bye for now.